Hey, what's up? It's the Dirty South Podcast, Ward Wrestling, SE Wrestle. It's our fourth Tuesday together. This is pretty awesome. Pretty cool. How you been, man?
I've been good. I'm a little tired.
Yeah,
it,
I
it
saw
was
you
a
out. I mean, I didn't see you out there, but I saw you out there based on your coverage.
yeah, it was a long weekend. It was a lot of fun. There was there was a lot of really good matches. There was a lot of kids. The venue itself was really pretty good. I liked it. Maybe a little too expensive for where I stayed and everything else, but otherwise, it was good. It was a good weekend. But you know how it is when you have a job and you got to get back to your job and you got to upload 5,000 pictures and I mean it's just chaos, man.
Yeah, especially at a tournament like that because you had a lot of kids there. And man, the one
Yeah.
thing, it was, it was. So and I wanted to ask you this when we came on. So obviously, it was a for the sake of qualifying for your national team, only the 16U and the juniors, correct? For boys and girls.
Yeah, because I don't know that you have to I don't know that you have to like qualify for kids nationals. You didn't used to have to qualify for kids nationals. Anybody could go. So, you know, I would assume so. The way I understand it, the way they were talking about it is it's top six at Southeast regions earns a spot that is kind of like an at large bid for wherever state or whatever. And we saw Ohio kids, we saw Illinois kids, we saw Pennsylvania kids, and then we saw some other kids who hadn't qualified because one, they weren't a returning All-American, or two, um, they didn't wrestle at their qualifier for their state, like Dominic Bambinelli and Jacob Levy, and they came in, they got to the semifinals, and then they injury defaulted out and took six, but they earned their spot, which I mean, I get it, but you're also like, come on, man. I'd love
Yeah.
to see you wrestle if you're gonna be there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. See that match, right? And I think, I mean, at a much higher level, we saw that happen at the Olympic trials too, right? Where they get to a certain level where they get beat. But man, how about? I mean, obviously it's Southeast regional, so you do get people from around the country kind of sprinkle in from some other places. But for the most part, it's the Southeast competing against each other, right? And
mhm.
I mean, at the youth level, you could really see that the South has some absolute hammers coming up. But as far as junior and 16U boys, I mean, Georgia with 10 champs, Florida with 6 champs, Tennessee 3, uh, Alabama 1, the Carolinas each with 1 on the freestyle side, and uh, and on the
Mhm.
girls' side, I mean, Tennessee really looked really
Mhm.
good. Tennessee with Hilton and Queen and Jennings and Sturgill winning 2 weights, and Grossman, and then obviously Georgia and Florida and Alabama brought some finalists home. That was awesome, man. What was and then of course they've all qualified. I mean Georgia had who knows 10, 22, another 12, 30. I mean probably 40
And look at him. He's doing math in his head, people.
qualified. Yeah, Florida had a bunch. So yeah, that was awesome, man. So um, the South showed out, right?
Yeah, no, they wrestled really well. There were probably a couple of takeaways. I think the girls brackets were not as large, primarily because there was another event, Southern Throne, up in South Carolina, where some of the girls. I was talking to Jeff Reagan, and his very much hammer from Lemon Bay was up at Southern Throne, not at Southeast Regions. And you know, I mean, it's a different organization. They all get to kind of pick their own dates, and we compete with one another. But it is a little frustrating because you were missing a few girls that I think would have made the brackets even better, even deeper if you had seen them there. Now, it doesn't mean that the quality wrestling wasn't still superb, but especially at the and you know how it is at the bottom weights and at the top weights, you get round robins instead of like a normal 16 person bracket. And that's,
Yeah,
anyway.
blah.
So, well,
But
it's just, it's
well,
not
you
as,
saw a lot of boys. Yeah, it's not as fun. You saw a lot of boys at Southern Throne too. I think I saw a lot of host of boys that were over there
oh,
as
really?
well.
I didn't even know if there was a boys event there. I know it was girls duels.
Oh well, there was something in South Carolina that I mean I saw the whole Harmony team was up there, and so it might have been
You know
a
what?
boys
I
version
don't
of that.
doubt it. I don't doubt it. There's a ton of opportunities, and there's lots of places to go, and all of that. But it's really, and you mentioned Tennessee. I mean, I'll tell you what, if I'm paying attention and I'm watching as we head to Fargo, Riley Sturgill, man, she is a hammer. She is a hammer, and I very much think that she is one of the Southeast kids that you could see on the big stage, at the end of the event in 16U. She is super
Yeah, and
talented.
some other. I mean, there was a girl from I love Zoe Delgado, one of my favorite girls, one of my favorite families. But she ran into a Tennessee girl in the finals. That was
Georgia girl, I think, right? Carolyn
no,
Dover, is that not?
was it Carolyn? Was it a Georgia girl, Carolyn Dover?
Well,
I,
Dover. I,
I didn't
I think
remember,
it was.
but
I think it was Dover. I mean, you know what? I can look it up real quick. Um, 14U girls freestyle. Do you remember what weight?
uh, 115.
Yeah, she lost to
It
Dover
was Dover. It was Dover.
from Georgia, but you sometimes get confused because Cleveland has been. I think she's been working with some of the Cleveland crew up there as well, and that would be a Riley Sturgis, Caroline Hilton crew as well. Man, I'll tell you what, Coach Boskin up there, he's got something going because man, those girls are tough.
Yeah, he's building something. And how good is Betances?
She wrestled great. I watched her wrestle a couple of different matches, and I'll tell you what, Artemis Eaton, who's from Georgia, who she beat in the finals, and she beat in the finals, was a I mean, it was impressive, one. And number two, in my opinion, with Espinoza and Powell and Johnson, Underwood, if you don't know Ellie Underwood from Tennessee, I mean, 115 for your top six, that was probably the best weight class in junior girls. And Betances was just, she was on another level.
It's awesome. Also, Sofia Delgado had a good run.
She did. Yeah,
She's she's really good. She had
she is.
one match there. I was watching her at the beginning. She was kind of, but then she took a hold of it. Um, but yeah, Tennessee with Boskin and those girls is unbelievable. What was the? I think I was texting you the finals match between the was it Tennessee and Alabama, where it went to the
Tennessee.
last second and the kid like did a flying squirrel over his back, but the time was over.
Oh, yeah. So junior 157, 165. I'm trying to remember which one. Deshaun Poe from Alabama, Hunter Sturgill from Tennessee. And everybody's commenting on the reel I posted. And all the Baylor kids are like, oh, that was two. And I'm like, it was two, but it was two after time had gone out.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It just
You're
didn't
not
happen.
right. You're not wrong. But Amari Alvarez like sent me a thing. I told him, I explained it to him. He's like, nah, that's not true. I'm like, trust me, the time was out. It was a great match. It was a fantastic match. Sturgill, they kind of went back and forth. He seemed like he was in the lead. Then Powell, who looked like he was really tired, man, he just turned it on. He got that takedown, and then last 15 seconds were kind of furious. It was a great match. And I don't know if you saw this, but Sturgill beat Poe 3-2 in the Greco final.
Oh, so they wrestle both.
They wrestled both in the finals, and each one won. And I think they both were 1-point matches or 2-point matches.
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, another one was Logan Swenson and Max Brady. Logan Swenson goes up big right out of the gate, and then here comes Max Brady, and he just ran out of time. Max Brady
Yeah,
was pushing, 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 and man, if there's 3 more seconds left, who knows what happens? But what a match that was.
Yeah, well, and Swenson was just exhausted. I mean, the pressure from Brady was nonstop, and he was just in the last minute. He was picking his shots. He was picking him apart. He was coming down, and Swenson was simply exhausted. I cut away on the video, and I don't know if anybody caught it on the flow or whatever, but like after the match and he won, Swenson must have sat on the mat for a minute before he got up and like kind of went back to his corner because yeah, it took him out of him. It took it out of him. That was a great match. It was also a really good weight class. 132 juniors was another really good weight class.
Yeah, it seemed like Brady was starting to pick it up, and some other kids. I mean, obviously, being down in Florida, I keep an eye on a lot of the Florida kids too.
Yeah.
As we're doing this now, I'm trying to keep an eye on other states and stuff so that I don't completely sound like a homer.
Well, you know what? You can adopt the I do this with Lucas and we have
Yeah,
conversations about it, everybody, and then next thing you know, he's down a Georgia path talking about Georgia kids. And that's okay. I mean, honestly, I think we should spend a little more time talking about Florida kids because, just because you don't win doesn't mean you didn't have a great weekend. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, so like Peter Mako.
Yeah.
I mean, this young man is going to be something special. I know that what was it, the semis on was it semis of freestyle where he lost and he went back to the
Did he lost to
backside,
Boyle of Ohio? Yeah.
who's obviously very good. And but man, he had some tosses and some throws that were on the highlight reel, right?
Yes, he did. Peter wrestled really well. I watched. So 190 is one of those situations where, at least in my opinion, we have like this. We have these levels, and Ronan on and Boyle from Ohio and Peter are at this level, and the other 190s they're not. And not to say they won't get there at some day, and that's I think it's great that they go out and compete, but man, you put yourself in a situation where if you're not at that level and that, yeah, you can get tossed. And yeah, that's a tough thing to see.
Well,
You want
the
video
one,
getting tossed.
yeah, the one he was wrestling, I think it was a close match. Um, he was wrestling a kid, and so they were tied up, and then they separate a little bit, and the kid turns his back to Peter for a minute, and next thing you know, Peter's picking him up and tossing him
And going over.
Yeah, yeah, he came up behind him, so it was pretty awesome. But I mean, as far as Florida kids go, and 16U and junior, I mean, Armand and Aranda and Leva and Solis and Tovar and Davis. I mean, they all had really nice runs there, and it was fun to watch them all do that. Who really is good is the RJ Phelan. I know he came in second, but man, that young man is really starting to do big things.
Mhm.
And the Kuroga, Landon Kuroga had a really good.
He did. He did. Landon, I saw Landon lose. I'm trying to remember where I thought I saw him lose in one of the styles, but he came back and wrestled really, really well. So I was impressed. It was interesting I saw the Merritt Island crew up in that area. I saw obviously Lake Highland Prep. And I'll tell you what, South Florida brought a ton of kids. Your Black Flag crew, they brought a bunch of kids. Didn't see any Jesuit kids, none of Mason's crew as far as what I could see. There was no Mason but Basil, there was no KJ Vasquez, there were none of them. Maybe they already qualified and they just like, why spend the money to go on the trip? Or
No, I can tell you where they were.
Where?
They were running the Spartan Stadion race at the Tampa Bay Bucks Stadium. They do it every year. They did it last year, was their first time doing it as a team. And this year they did it as a team again on Saturday. They ran the Stadion race together, kind of a bonding thing. So it was pretty cool to see.
Okay. Oh, I didn't think they were sitting at home, drink or
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
eating bonbons and hanging out. I mean, I didn't
yeah,
think that.
yeah. So it's because they did it last year for the first time, and it looks like it's going to become a ritual for them. Um, and they had a good time doing that. But yeah, as far as youth is concerned, we did see a lot of the gladiators, the aisle styles, the black flags, um, well trained had a really nice showing up there.
Well, Trade had several kids. Yeah, I saw Coach Bird and got to have an opportunity to talk to him. I got an opportunity to see Camden Elliott. She wrestled really, really well. Had had a good girl in the finals. Trying to think, who did she wrestle in the finals?
Yeah, she is definitely one of my
She
favorite.
beat Olivia Wyland from Georgia in the finals. But you had Cora Finstad in that bracket. You had Metzger in that bracket. At 105 pounds, that was a good bracket. But Camden looked great. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, again, it was there
I
were
tell you
some
what, her
really
105 bracket's going to be strong next week too, down here in
uh,
Florida at Spartan Nationals. We got a lot of good girls at 105, so it'll be fun to watch.
is that coming up this weekend?
No, this weekend is NHSCA duels, and then the following weekend is Spartan.
So just as we're laying it out, so in my head, because I don't go to all of them, and I just can't afford to go to all of them. I don't have time to go to all of them. Right? You got NHSCA duels in Virginia this week. Then the following weekend is Spartan Nationals, right?
Right.
When is the FAWA? FAWA is Spartan Nationals, right?
Right. So you have the Spartan duels, which is Spartan, and then the Spartan Nationals is FAWA qualifier. So
And
for
then
the
the
state team.
weekend after we have SummerSlam.
SummerSlam. Yeah. So you have, and also during, and I was just having this conversation during Spartan Nationals, you also have one of the best camps in our state that happens every year over at Osceola. So if there'll be a lot of kids, that wasn't done, that was totally done by mistake, the two dates, but um, Osceola has one of the best camps that goes on in our state every year down there. They've got high level coaches, D1 coaches. And if you're competing at Spartan Nationals, which rightfully so, trying to make the Fargo team, if you get knocked out of the tournament early or you get knocked out of the tournament at some point, um, it might be a good idea to get in your car and go over and get into that camp because you'll get a lot of good over there. So you have
Yeah.
that going on.
Do they have like a drop in rate?
They should do that. They should do like a drop-in rate for kids. If you get bounced from Spartan Nationals, you should come and get a drop-in rate. They should definitely do that. And then you've got going into the next week, you've got SummerSlam going on at the 6th, 7th, 8th. And then also 6th, 7th, 8th is a camp down in South Florida with Pat Lugo. You've got Pat Lugo doing
Oh,
that.
that's right. That's
And
right.
then,
That's the same weekend.
yeah, so you have 6th, 7th, 8th is the tournament summer knockout. And then Sunday the 9th, so it doesn't affect anything at summer knockout. Sunday the 9th at Miccosukee Indian Tribe, whatever it's called. You have the big tournament that Pat Lugo is putting on down in South Florida. So I will be at Spartan Nationals. Then I will be at SummerSlam. Then I'm going to leave SummerSlam and I'm going to go to sleep and I'm going to wake up early in the morning and I'm going to drive all the way down to, well, either that night I'll leave or that morning I'm going to drive all the way down. I'm going to cover Pat Lugo's tournament on the 9th. And then I'm back home and then we go. There's got to be stuff I'm doing in June, I would imagine.
Are you going out to any of the duels? Are you going out to any of the 16U or junior duels or anything like that?
No. So I spoke with JT about it, and it's something that we really wanted to do. But I think I just need to plan it better money wise. So, obviously, Team Florida
Mm-hmm.
takes very good care of me when they take me out to Fargo. But maybe it's probably not cost effective to do that every single time for the duels and do everything else as you're trying to get more kids involved and do things for the kids, which is the most important thing. So I could do it on my own time, but I think I would have to, which I don't mind, but I think I would have to prepare for next year knowing that that's coming and be able to put, money aside for that. Now, also, with having to go to Lima, Peru, that's a big cost that we didn't know was coming this summer. We're glad that it came, right? But we didn't know it was coming this summer. So we do have to do that too. So a lot of things coming up that are taking from the budget. So I do have to look carefully, but I will be the next three big tournaments in Florida. I'll be there. So I'll be there with my camera and it'll be fun. But yeah,
That's awesome.
you got to be at the Southeast Regionals, which had some amazing things. I mean, so now there's a Little Mills that came up to 106 and on the 16U level, huh?
So that's not the Little Mills. That's Taquavius Mills, who's wrestled in high school. So there's a couple more, right? So
Yeah, it looks like there was three. There was
one,
Antonio, Araya, and Taquarius all won.
well, and I think there's another one that was even younger who won as well.
Oh, well, there's 14 others, so they can have their own duel. But
so Araya won both in at 88 pounds in both Greco and freestyle. And I will say, if you are watching kids to make a run for a title in Fargo, Araya Mills is that kid, and his training partner Cody Clark out of Georgia as well is an absolute hammer. He beat RJ Phelan 12-2 at 100 pounds in freestyle in the finals. Those two kids are kids to watch this summer. I'm telling you.
you know, how good are the little girls that are coming up in the Southeast region, especially, I mean, obviously in Florida with Anna Mako and Ava Tovar and Emma Moya and Gallo and Phelan and Cifuentes and then all the ones that came in second and third, but with Zoe Delgado and all those girls that are coming up that are in the 8U, 14U, but not just Florida. I mean, Georgia had, Georgia had 11 first place girls that were in the 8U to 14U. I mean, how awesome is this seeing these girls coming up and how good was the wrestling at that level?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I think honestly, I mean, we continue to see it, right? And this is one of the reasons why this is something we've seen for a little bit for quite a while. Okay. It's one of the reasons why I don't typically cover anyone who's younger than 16U, right? We'll dip into some 14Us because the 14Us will wrestle high school potentially in the state of Florida and maybe a couple other states. And Alabama one is another one that I was thinking of. But I don't typically go any lower because we've seen kids who are superbly talented and then they get burned out at such a young age. And I don't want to have anything to do with any of that, posting something on social media. If you post something on social media and you're a junior in high school and you're scrapping it up and you happen to get tossed, and that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. I mean, we've all been tossed. It is what it is. You're 17 years old. You can kind of figure that out. But, I don't believe in kind of taking a picture of like an 8-year-old getting tossed or something like that. That's for me, it's not where I go. Right. And I'm trying to think of,
by the way, I will do you dirty. It doesn't matter the age. If you get tossed and my camera's there, you're making the Instagram page and you all know that. Okay.
All right. So Ward has a very different philosophy than I have, but regardless, what I would say is that if we can continue to foster their development without pushing competition and continue to get them to have fun and be involved and compete. I mean, you're not competing, but like, don't make it just about competing and make it about, having an enjoyable time. I think we'll continue to grow and get better, and you'll see all of those names continue to filter all the way up. The biggest challenge for me, and you just spoke about the girls, was we've got to see girls wrestle freestyle. And we still see a lot of them wrestling folk style because that's what a lot of their parents know. You know, if you look at USA Wrestling, I think like 10% of the kids who wrestle high school end up wrestling USA Wrestling during March to whatever. I mean, only 10%. It's just such a small percentage that actually wrestle freestyle. And especially the college is girls. I mean, it's freestyle. College wrestling for women is freestyle. This is a time when you start learning it, not when you're a junior in high school, man. Start learning it when you're 10 and 11 and 12.
Even on the boy, I mean, on the boys' side too, right? I was just talking with, I just had right before, I just had a show with Dante Giovanetta and Zach Sherman, and they've
Big
had the
Poppy.
club now. Yeah, they've had the club now 3 years, right? Dante opened up 3 years ago. Now Zach is involved, and they're starting to grow. And I think over the next 2 or 3 years, you'll start to see their kids that are being developed now compete at the higher level tournaments. But one thing they say they're incorporating in the youth is Greco and freestyle, whether you're a boy or a girl, because they've learned that the importance of having that development, especially for girls, obvious reasons, right? But for boys, learning how to use your upper body, learning how to move your hips, learning how to do certain things that the freestyle and Greco show you will then be noticed when you're on the mat doing freestyle and at your school and state. So they're even trying to incorporate that at the younger age. So me having never wrestled, you having wrestled, me having never wrestled,
Right.
I only know what I'm being told by coaches or what I'm learning by watching you guys and talking to you guys. But there are still coaches out there that say we don't do freestyle. That's not our thing. We only do folk style. And I don't know, whatever the reason is, maybe that's just their comfort zone. Maybe monetarily wise, it's less expensive to do folk style. Maybe their goals in their program is just, I want to take a boy from seventh or eighth grade or ninth grade and get them into college. So my goal is get them as good as they are to get to college. I don't know what it could be. So
I think all that makes sense, right? If your goal is as a program to win a state title, knock off South Dade or Lake Gibson or Somerset or whomever the case is, that's great, right? And same thing happens in Georgia. Same thing happens in lots of different places, right? You see this focus in on folk style, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if I'm talking to a parent and I am trying to have a conversation with a parent, and you want to be a really good wrestler in high school next year, as you move forward, if you want to continue that development, I'm telling you, man, you can't beat learning Greco and learning freestyle. And yes, there's going to be some bumps along the way, and you might end up on a highlight reel of getting tossed. But you know what? You will be a better wrestler as a result of being put in those situations, because those situations teach you so much. I know the rules are different, but man, it is so awesome. They just grow so much from, learning Greco is such a valuable skill for a high school wrestler. I can't even overstate how important I think it is. So
that's awesome.
Anyway.
Yeah. And I know we went down a rabbit hole there, but
yeah, we did.
We do have down in Florida, we got the Fargo qualifier coming up, Spartan Nationals, FAWA, next weekend. I'll have a show with Coach Mason this week, so we can release a bunch of information from him so that everybody knows where to go, what to do. I believe there's only one weigh in on Friday, and that weighs you in for the whole tournament. So little things like that. I could be totally incorrect. That's what I read. We do have the duels.
Don't. I always say this too. Don't base your decision making upon something you heard here.
Yeah. Go check it out. But I know, and one thing that I heard, and I'll address this with David, is some people, I've reached out for dual teams, looking for duals teams, including my own team, and some kids are concerned because Greco is the same day, so they're concerned it's going to overlap. I know I've spoke to Nick Garone, and I know we'll speak to Mason and we'll find that out. But I think they will, if there is a case where a duel is happening and one of your kids is up on the Greco mat, then we're just going to have to stop the duel. and wait for him to go wrestle his Greco match. I mean, it's just the way it is, or plug another kid in there. I mean, the Spartan duels are fun, and you could win a Spartan cool thing at the end, but what matters during the weekend is the Fargo qualifier, right? So we want to make sure that we're having fun in the duels, we're competitive in the duels, we're doing what we got to do in the duels, and kids are getting matches. But if one of them gets called up for a Greco, we need to kind of pause and give him the opportunity to go over there and try to make the national team. So I'm going to talk to him about that as well. But back to SE regionals, the
Yeah.
coverage you did was phenomenal, and
Thank you.
you're getting so good at these little real things that you're doing. And now I see you're figuring out how to put like your little logo at the bottom and do that. Um,
Blind Squirrel finds a nut every
yes,
now and
and
again.
I know we need to get onto Premiere Pro so I can kind of show you how I layer stuff there so you can have some more fun with it. Um, but the cover is great. You posted a bunch of cool pictures, a bunch of cool moves, a bunch of cool matches. But throughout the weekend, what were first of all your favorite match to watch was?
Mm. Okay. So I think we've already touched on one of my favorite matches, but let's actually do it. Let's do it by like maybe finals of each of the different groups. We said Poe and Sturgill and juniors.
Yeah, awesome.
That was a great match. But we also talked about Brady and Swenson. But I will say the other match in juniors that was awesome to watch was Antonio Mills, Jojo Urachuk, two of the absolute best junior kids in the country battled it out. Bradley Patterson was in that bracket as well. It was a fantastic bracket. That was a match that if you get a chance to go
So
back and watch, you should
yeah,
watch.
that's what I was gonna say. So if I'm not somebody that's gonna go back and watch every single match that happened, but I wanted to go back and watch a few. So
Yeah.
Antonio Mills, Yurichuk, that's one that I need to put on my docket. Um,
Yeah. Go watch a semifinal match between two Florida kids. I think it was semifinals. Frederick Mitchum and David Levia.
uh, yeah,
They got into it. They got into it. And you could tell they both wanted to win that match, and it was quite competitive. I saw it from a little bit of a distance, but it was a great match to watch as well. So that's another one I would watch.
on
Um
the girls side.
no on the that was
Oh, that's on
guys.
the boys side. That's guys. But on the girls side, what
Oh,
was?
go to the girls side. Actually, let me go to 16U before I go to the girls.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So no,
I'm
you're
getting so
good.
excited. I'm getting so excited. I'm ready to go
so
watch them now.
So 16 U's. So if you watched any of the matches at 132, okay, Greco or freestyle, you saw you saw several absolute hammers. You saw Giovanni Solis, you saw AJ Dela Cruz out of South Carolina, Legend Ellis, man, that's a name, right? Legend Ellis out
Yeah.
of Oklahoma, and you saw who was the other kid? I'm trying to think of who the other kid was. Oh, Josiah Boyden in out of Georgia, especially in Greco. Boyden beat Solis like by a point in Greco in the Greco finals. Okay. Solis beat Dela Cruz in the freestyle finals, but any of the matches at 132 and 16U were absolutely great to watch. You want to watch some domination? Go watch Giovanni Tovar. Man, that kid is super good. He wrestled super good. Armand Williams against James Severs was a great match. And then I would say like Bentley Sly, Dylan Reel. These were all kids that kind of dominated their areas, and I think they were fun to watch too. Um,
And I mean, a kid, and then also a kid at 215, John Robinson out of South Carolina, seems like he's
yes,
a great kid to keep an eye on too, huh?
yeah. So it's one of those situations where you have to the 215 as you get to the 215s and the heavyweights. You're kind of like, I'm not 100% sure because the brackets aren't quite as big, but he looked really good. And going back to juniors, you rarely see big heavyweights throw somebody, but Big Willie Cox from Alabama, Man, he locked up a belly to belly toss, a la, back Big Poppy, tosses back in the day.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he was it was fun. It was fun to watch. Those were some fun to watch, definitely. On the girls' side, I think I already talked about Betances and 115 being a great bracket, but probably the match to watch in the finals was Delilah Queen from Tennessee and Kimber Alford from Alabama. I think it was a 1 point match. I just know it was all over the place. There was a lot of scoring, a lot going back and forth. Caroline Hilton, Ella Hughes was a really good match at 130 pounds. And then the last one I would say would be Evelyn Holmes Smith. This was in the quarterfinals. Evelyn Holmes Smith wrestled Vera Spencer from Georgia. They had a quarterfinal bout, and Spencer was up, beating the returning Fargo All American from Alabama. And Evelyn pulled it out and actually got the fall to beat her and win that match, and then went on to win the bracket. So
Yeah, and I know, um, before we wrap it up, was there any kids that maybe were under the radar that came out there and maybe you didn't expect to see them, or maybe you've heard of them but you didn't really realize how good they were, and they showed up on the scene and they really made a nice run, put their name on the map? Is there any kids you saw like that?
yeah, I actually think that there were quite a few, honestly. So I've heard the name Houston Rudisill from South Carolina um, many times. I know he's a talented kid. I had not actually gotten to see him compete until this weekend. I was pretty impressed with the way he went out and competed. Armand Williams beating James Severs, who is a absolute hammer in the state of Georgia, and beating him 10-0 in the finals of freestyle. I knew Armand was good. We watched Armand this past year, but that just gives me another indication of how talented he really is. Um, there were uh, another kid that I thought that I was really impressed with, which was Eric Perez out of Florida. I think he's Black Flag down at the Black Flag crew. Um, Eric was in every match. He was competing with every single person that he had against him, and he lost to Jake Way in the finals at 113. I think he placed in freestyle. Didn't win it, but every single time I turned around, he was on the mat scrapping with somebody and was right there neck and neck with. I mean, I think he lost 5-4 to Jake Way in the finals. I think he won some real close matches. He lost some real close matches. And I'll tell you what,
Yeah,
you keep
I
grinding through
listen.
those. That's good.
I love Jake Way. I'm so proud of that kid. What a good young man, and he's to see his growth and what he's doing. William Jakeway is an absolute tremendous young man. I like that kid. I got a question. I feel like we've been watching Drew Gorman for years.
And you'll see him in next year too, because he's only a junior.
Yeah, I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, obviously a stud, a hammer. He's been doing this for a long time. We've been seeing him on this level, but I feel like we've been watching him do great things for years. But it's only
Yeah,
been
well, I think he wrestled in the first ever Elite Eight as an eighth grader.
the
Um,
knockout, right? The knockout. We've seen him at the Christmas knockout.
he's in at the Christmas knockout. We've seen him everywhere from the moment. I mean, he stepped he gets it in Georgia. You can step on the mat as a freshman. You can't step on the mat necessarily any sooner than that, and high school wise. But I mean, he was wrestling. He was wrestling everywhere. It's as an eighth grader, as a seventh grader, and some of the names we were just talking about. Kids that were wrestling the seventh and eighth graders and everything else, and they're going to be. That's the next Drew Gorman, right? I mean, that's the kid that Giovanni Solis. You'd be like, didn't that kid graduate, man? Like what? he,
he's
he's
so
been here forever.
he's so good. He's so
he
good.
is. He is. I was impressed. And you know what? I learned a few things this weekend. Baylor added two Georgia kids to their roster, Dylan Reel and Gabe Swan. So Baylor's going to be tough next year.
Yeah. Well, they've got a great coach out there.
Yeah, Rex Kendall's a really great guy and a really good coach. And it was a lot of. I mean, it was a good weekend, man. It was a good weekend.
That's awesome. Well, I don't know what do we have going on next Tuesday? We're together next Tuesday. I think it's the Tuesday after, right? That we may not be. Um,
Right,
but
right. I don't know what do you have this weekend?
this weekend I don't have much going on.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. All right. So
so we'll be
everybody who's
together.
going to tune, I'll tell you what, everybody who's going to tune in next week, Dan will do his research. I'll do my research. We will not be in attendance, but we will both watch as much information as we can out of the NHSCA duels.
Absolutely, absolutely. That'll be fun to watch. And then yeah, and then we'll be on Tuesday, and then we go into Spartan Nationals, then we go into Summer Knockout, then we go into Boom Boom Boom. So it might be a couple weeks, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, man. It's always great talking to you.
All right, brother. I'll see you.
All right. You take care.